Okay, so get this right. Imagine a civilization, okay? They worshipped were jaguars, and they built pyramids. Pyramids, but like way before the Egyptians, even before they finished the Great Pyramid. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty mind-blowing, right?
It really is. So you're probably thinking like, wait, who are these people? Who are these people? And that's exactly what we're gonna, what we're diving into today. The Olmec.
The Olmec.
Yeah, Gulf of Mexico coast,
No.
modern day Veracruz, and Tabasco, Mexico. Way back, way back, around 1200 to 400 BCE.
Yeah, and they're often called, the mother culture of Mesoamerica because they really their fingerprints are all over later civilizations like, the Maya, the Aztecs.
The Mayans, yeah. Yeah, we're basing this deep dive on a YouTube video from the Study of Antiquity in the Middle Ages channel. It's called The History and Culture of Olmec Civilization.
Great channel, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Great channel. But here's the thing. Okay, here's the catch. We don't even know their real name. Olmec, that's what the Aztecs called them.
Right.
And it means rubber people.
Rubber people.
Because of their skill with rubber. I mean, they were like the rubber masters.
Exactly, yeah. It adds to the mystery, doesn't it? Like, we're starting a puzzle, but, with half the pieces missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still don't really know, where they came from, their origins, and how far their settlements, actually spread.
Right.
It's a lot we just don't know.
Yeah, totally. But we do have some clues they left behind these symbols, kind of like an ancient code.
That code, yeah.
And it gives us some hints about their religious practices. It's like they left us this message, but we're still trying to figure out what it says.
Yeah.
We're still deciphering it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's and what's interesting is what we are finding is that those messages suggest a pretty, organized religion, maybe even, priesthood. Think rituals, ceremonies, the whole 9 yards.
Right. Yeah. So before we get to the word jaguars and pyramids,
Yeah.
I mean, where did this civilization even come from? Did they just pop up out of nowhere with rubber balls and elaborate rituals?
Well, not quite. A lot of civilizations, their story starts with agriculture.
Okay.
Right? They had these fertile coastal lands where they could grow crops, like corn, beans, and get this, not just once a year, twice a year.
Twice a year. Whoa.
That's some serious bounty.
That's amazing. No wonder they had the time and resources to, develop a complex society.
Exactly. That agricultural surplus, it was key.
Oh, yeah.
It allowed them to build urban centers, real cities like San Lorenzo, Venza, La Ligana de los Cerros, all these places buzzing with trade, new ideas.
So I'm picturing these bustling marketplaces.
Right.
People that are exchanging goods from all over the place. So what were some of the hot commodities back then?
Well, obsidian. Obsidian was big, and jade, for sure.
Okay.
But also serpentine, mica, those polished mirrors made from ilmenite and magnetite.
Wait, polished mirrors? I mean, that's some serious craftsmanship, right? For a civilization that's predates the Roman Empire. I mean, come on.
Exactly. And they weren't just trading trinkets. San Lorenzo, one of their earliest major centers, it was strategically located, safe from flooding, controlling these key trade routes.
Right.
They had mound structures, maybe even an early version of a ball court.
Oh, yeah.
And get this, they had a red palace with painted floors and workshops.
A red palace. That sounds fit for a king.
Yeah.
Were these Olmec rulers, were they living the high life?
It seems remember, this is 1200 to 900 BCE, and they're already building complex structures, showing signs of a hierarchical society. You know?
Okay, so if San Lorenzo was so powerful, what happened? I mean, empires don't just vanish overnight, do they?
That's a $1 million question.
Right.
Yeah, around 900 BCE, San Lorenzo, it shows signs of serious trouble, destruction, monuments defaced, the whole 9 yards.
So was it an invasion, a rebellion? Did those were jaguars finally decide they had enough?
We're still trying to piece together the puzzle. It could have been, internal conflict, maybe a rival group challenging their power, or maybe it was something, environmental, like a shift in the river patterns, or even a volcanic eruption that messed with their agriculture.
Okay, so San Lorenzo's out of the picture.
Yeah.
But the Olmec civilization, it didn't just disappear, did it?
No, not at all. As San Lorenzo faded, this new power center emerged. La Venta.
La Venta.
And And let me tell you, Leventa, this was a game changer.
Okay, I'm all ears. What made Leventis so special? I mean, was it just like bigger and better than San Lorenzo?
Well, think of it this way. If San Lorenzo was like a bustling town,
Okay.
Levento was like a metropolis.
Oh,
A
wow.
population reaching up to 18,000 people.
18,000.
Yeah.
That's massive for that time. I mean, what did they do with all those people?
Well, they built things, impressive things.
Yeah.
Leventa had this incredibly planned layout, buildings, symmetrically placed, along this north-south axis with colossal stone heads guarding key point.
Hold on. Colossal heads, like giant sculptures of heads. What's the deal with those?
Well, we'll dive into those more later, but let's just say they're like one of the most iconic symbols of Olmec civilization. Imagine like almost 3-meter high heads carved out of solid basalt,
Wow.
each weighing up to 8 tons.
8 tons. Okay, that officially qualifies as colossal. How did they even move those things? Did they have like some secret Olmec technology that we don't know about?
Good question. Well, they had to transport these massive blocks of basalt from quarries up to 80 kilometers away.
80 kilometers. I can barely move a sofa that far without pulling a muscle.
Yeah.
How did they manage that with like 8 tons of solid rock?
Right. They likely used a combination of human power and the rivers that flowed through their territory. Imagine like rafts laden with these giant stone heads slowly making their way to Leventa. That's some serious logistical skill.
It's like trying to move a school bus by hand. I can't even imagine the planning, the coordination involved. It's crazy.
And that's not all. Leventa also boasted the first pyramid in Mesoamerica.
Okay.
Not just any pyramid, but
Yeah.
a massive structure. It dominated the city's skyline.
Wow.
And then there was this sunken plaza lined with these impressive basalt columns and smaller pyramid mounds scattered throughout the city.
So they were setting trends even back then. It sounds like they were pretty advanced for their time. I mean, what specifically makes you say that?
Well, the level of urban planning at Leventa.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. That north-south axis with the colossal heads guarding those key points. I mean, it suggests a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and a desire to like project power. Remember, we're talking about a civilization that existed centuries before the Roman Empire.
It's mind-boggling. It's like they were like laying the blueprint for later civilizations, right?
Absolutely. And that's what makes them so important. The Olmec, they weren't just building cities. They weren't just carving giant heads.
Yeah.
They were shaping the cultural landscape of Mesoamerica.
Okay, so we've got the bustling cities, the colossal heads.
Right.
But what about those were jaguars? Where did they fit into all of this?
That's where it gets really interesting. Despite all these advancements, so much about their religious beliefs, it's still a mystery. But we do have some intriguing clues.
Okay, spill the beans. What kind of clues? I'm dying to know more about these were jaguar worshippers.
Well, they seem to have had a deep reverence for nature. Caves, mountains, springs, these were seen as like sacred places, connections to the sky, the earth, the underworld.
That makes sense. I mean, they relied on nature for their survival, so it's natural that they would, hold those places sacred. Did they have like specific sites that were particularly important to them?
They did. Sites like El Manatee,
Okay.
Chalcatzingo, and Oxtitlan. These were like their versions of cathedrals or temples, places where they, performed rituals connected with the divine.
Okay, so they had sacred places. But what about their gods? What did they believe in?
Okay, so this is where it gets a bit tricky.
Okay.
We don't know the names of their gods, so we just call them by numbers, God 1, God 2, and so on.
Wait, they numbered their gods. Why not give them, names? Like Zeus or Odin.
That's one of the mysteries we're still trying to solve. It could be that their names were just, lost to time. Or maybe they had a different way of conceptualizing the divine. But what we do know is that these gods, they represented natural forces like rain, the earth, maize, things that were essential to their survival.
Makes sense. I mean, they depended on those things. So no wonder they would worship gods that controlled them. But what about those were jaguars? I mean, were they gods too?
That's a good question. They definitely had this this fascination with powerful animals. Jaguars, eagles, caimans, snakes, even sharks. These creatures, they held a special significance, maybe seen as like divine beings themselves, or forms that rulers could transform into.
So were jaguars half human, half jaguar? They're prowling through the jungle. That's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying. Do you think they were seen as like a good force or a bad force?
It's hard to say for sure, but considering the jaguar was like the apex predator in their environment, the word jaguar might have represented, power, strength, perhaps even a connection to the supernatural.
Okay, so we got these nature-worshipping, animal-obsessed people. They're building pyramids, colossal heads. It's starting to paint a pretty vivid picture. But I'm still curious about their art. What can their art tell us about them?
Their art is where their beliefs, their skills, their worldview, like it really comes to life. And it's not just those colossal heads, though they are pretty impressive.
Okay, I'm ready for an art history lesson. What else did they create? Okay, I'm ready for an art history lesson. What
Yeah.
else did they create?
I think rock carvings and paintings, often found near those sacred caves we were talking about.
Yeah.
They often depict rulers
Oh.
in like elaborate attire, sometimes even taking part in cave rituals.
So it's not just pretty pictures,
Yeah.
right? It's like a window into their religious practices. Do we have any idea what those rituals involve?
Well, we can, only speculate, but the presence of offerings, like jade objects, pottery, at these sites, it suggests they were, trying to appease the gods or connect with the
So
supernatural.
they were like leaving gifts for the gods,
Right.
hoping for good harvests,
Yeah.
protection,
Yeah.
maybe even a glimpse into the future.
Exactly, and their artistic skills weren't limited to stone. They were masters of jade, ceramic, even wood. We found incredibly well-preserved wooden sculptures in the bogs of El Manatee.
Bogs. That's amazing. How do wooden sculptures survive in a bog for centuries?
Bogs have this unique environment, low oxygen, acidic water that can actually preserve organic materials like wood for incredibly long periods. It's like a time capsule.
That's so cool. So what kind of wooden sculptures did they find? Were they similar to the stone carving?
Some were, but they also found these smaller, more intricate pieces. One figure that pops up a lot is God 4,
God for
sometimes called the Rain Baby.
rain baby. That sounds adorable. What does this rain baby look like?
Picture a toothless baby with an open mouth, a cleft head, and a headband. Sometimes they're even depicted with strips of crinkled paper.
Oh wow.
And it's thought that those paper strips they represent burnt offerings made to appease the rain gods and ensure a good harvest.
So they were worried about droughts even back then. I mean, it makes sense considering they're reliant on agriculture. Did they have any other rituals or beliefs related to rain?
We can only infer from their art and the offerings found at archaeological sites, but it seems like rain played a pretty central role in their lives and their belief system. It's a recurring theme in Mesoamerican cultures, and the Olmec, they might have been the ones who first established that connection.
Okay, back to the art for a sec. We've talked about stone carvings, paintings, even wooden sculptures. But what about jade? I mean, they seem to really value jade, right?
They did. Jade was this precious material associated with power, status, and the supernatural. And the Olmec, they were masters of jade carving. Just look at the kunsaks.
Kunsaks, what's that? Some ancient Olmec weapon?
It's a ceremonial axe head, but the craftsmanship, it's incredible. It depicts a word jaguar creature carved in like intricate detail using only jade tools.
Wait, they carved jade with jade? That's crazy. How is that even possible?
It speaks to their skill and patience. Jade is a hard, durable material, and working it, with primitive tools, it would have been incredibly challenging.
It makes those tiny details on the kunsaks even more impressive.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling that they were able to achieve that level of artistry with such limited tools.
It really makes you appreciate their ingenuity and dedication to their craft, and that's a theme we see throughout Olmec art. This attention to detail, this reverence for powerful creatures, and this constant interplay between the natural world and the supernatural.
It's like their art is trying to tell us a story that we're still trying to decipher.
And that's part of the allure, isn't it? They've left us with these tantalizing clues, these glimpses into a world that's both familiar and utterly alien. It's like they're inviting us to solve this mystery that's thousands of years old.
So we've explored their cities, their art, their fascination. We're jaguars and rain babies. But what about their legacy? I mean, how did they influence later Mesoamerican cultures? Did those colossal heads just become like tourist attractions for the Mayans and Aztecs?
No, their influence, it runs much deeper than that. The Olmec, they didn't just leave behind, cool artifacts.
Yeah.
They planted the seeds of ideas, beliefs, and artistic traditions that would flourish for centuries to come. They were the trendsetters of their time.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. How did they shape later cultures?
Well, let's start with their art. Those powerful animal representations we talked about, the jaguar, the eagle, the feathered serpent, they all became central figures in Mayan and Aztec art and religion.
So they weren't just copying the Olmec, right? They were like adapting those symbols, giving them new meaning within their own cultures.
Precisely. It's like the Olmec, they provided this foundation, this
Yes.
shared artistic vocabulary that later cultures built upon and made their own. And it's not just about aesthetics. The Olmec also established, key architectural and urban planning principles that were, adopted and elaborated upon by their successors.
Like what? Besides the pyramids, of course.
Right. Well, remember those precisely aligned ceremonial precincts we talked about, the ball courts, the emphasis on a north-south axis in urban planning.
Oh yeah, those became signature features of later Mesoamerican cities, didn't they? Think Teotihuacan, Chichen Itza. It's almost like they were following the Olmec blueprint.
They were, in a sense, the Olmec, they were pioneers. And their innovations, they resonated across Mesoamerica.
So it's not just art and architecture. They were influencing ideas too.
Absolutely. Think about the whole concept of rulership and divine authority. The Olmec rulers, often depicted in elaborate attire and seated on thrones in their art, they set this precedent for the powerful god kings that would dominate later Mesoamerican societies.
So they weren't just shaping, how cities looked or what gods people worshiped. They were like influencing the very structure of power and leadership.
That's right. They were shaping the political landscape as much as the physical one. And we can see this influence even in the way these later cultures conducted their rituals. The Olmec were pioneers in the use of sacrifice, both human and animal, as a way to appease the gods and ensure cosmic order.
That's a pretty intense legacy, sacrifices. That's a far cry from leaving jade offerings in a cave.
It is, but it's important to remember that these practices, though often modified, they became central to later Mesoamerican religions. It's a complex and often debated aspect of their legacy, but it's a part of their story nonetheless.
Okay, so their influence was pretty widespread, but was it limited to their immediate neighbors, or did it reach further afield?
Well, we found Olmec-style artifacts as far away as Teotihuacan, which is over 650 kilometers from the Olmec heartland.
That's incredible. It's like their ideas were traveling along those same trade routes we talked about earlier, spreading their influence far and wide.
And perhaps the most compelling evidence of their lasting impact is the continuity of specific deities. The sky dragon, the word jaguar, and most notably the feathered serpent god, all have roots in Olmec religion.
The feathered serpent god. That's a pretty big deal in Mayan and Aztec culture, right?
It is. For the Maya, it became Kukulkan, a powerful creator god associated with wind and knowledge. And for the Aztecs, it transformed into Quetzalcoatl, a wise and benevolent god associated with learning, art, and even the planet Venus.
So we're talking about a god that evolved from a relatively minor Olmec deity into a major player in two of the most influential Mesoamerican civilizations.
Exactly. It's a prime example of how Olmec ideas took root and flourished in new and unexpected ways.
Okay, so we established that the Olmec were incredibly influential. But what ultimately happened to them? I mean, why did their civilization decline?
That's the question that keeps archaeologists up at night.
Right.
We know that their major cities, like San Lorenzo and La Venta, they show signs of deliberate destruction around 400 to 300 BCE. Monuments were defaced, buildings were burned, and those once thriving centers, they were abandoned.
Was it an invasion? Internal conflict? Did those volcanoes finally erupt and cover everything in ash?
Well, we're still debating the exact cause. Some scholars, they suggest that internal strife or challenges from neighboring groups might have played a role. Others point to possible environmental changes, such as shifts in river patterns or even those volcanic eruptions you mentioned. That could have disrupted their agricultural systems and led to social unrest.
It's almost like their story ends with a giant question mark. We can trace their influence, but the mystery of their decline remains.
And that's what makes them so captivating. The Olmec, they offer a glimpse into this complex and sophisticated world that ultimately vanished, leaving behind a legacy of innovation, artistry, and enduring mysteries.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful civilizations are not immune to the forces of change. But their ideas, their art, their essence, those things can transcend time. And in that sense, the Olmec live on. Wow, okay, so we've really journeyed through the rise and fall of the Olmec civilization. We've explored their art, religion, their incredible impact on later Mesoamerican cultures, even their mysterious decline. It's been quite a ride.
It has, and as with any good deep dive, we've probably uncovered more questions than answers. But that's part of the allure of the Olmec, isn't it? They've left us this incredible legacy, yet so much about them remains shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, totally. But here's the thing, right?
Yep.
Why should you care about a civilization that vanished like centuries ago? What can we learn from the Olmec that's relevant to our lives today?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the Olmec have a lot to teach us. First, they remind us that even civilizations that seem, lost to time can have a profound and lasting impact on the world. Their innovations in art, architecture, religion, even political systems, they echoed through generations,
Yeah.
shaping the cultural landscape of Mesoamerica and beyond.
It's like a ripple effect, right? Their
Yeah.
influence just spread outward,
Oh.
influencing everything from the layout of cities to the very gods people worship.
Exactly. Second, the Olmec, they challenge us to reconsider our assumptions about history. They were creating monumental art and complex urban centers at a time when much of Europe was still in the Bronze Age. It forces us to broaden our perspective and acknowledge the achievements of cultures beyond the traditional Western narrative.
It's a good reminder that history's full of surprises, and that there's always more to learn, more stories to uncover, and the Olmec story. I mean, it shows that those stories can be incredibly rich and complex.
Absolutely. And finally, the Olmec, with all their enduring mysteries, they invite us to embrace curiosity and keep exploring. There's still so much we don't know about them, their origins, their language, the reasons behind their decline. Every new discovery has the potential to rewrite our understanding of their world and their place in history.
It's like they're daring us to dig deeper, to keep asking questions, searching for answers. Maybe one day we'll solve the puzzle of the Olmec civilization, but even if we don't, the journey of discovery, that's what matters.
Well said. And who knows, maybe one of our listeners, they'll be the one to make the next groundbreaking discovery about the Olmec.
I love that idea. So what can our listeners do if they want to, explore the Olmec further? Where should they start?
Well, there's lots of ways to keep digging. You could visit a museum with an Olmec collection, maybe even see one of those colossal heads in person.
Yeah.
Or you could check out some books or documentaries about Mesoamerican archaeology. There are even virtual tours of some Olmec sites available online.
That's awesome. And then if you're feeling really adventurous, you could always plan a trip to Mexico and see these incredible sites for yourself. I mean, imagine standing in the shadow of a pyramid that's thousands of years old, knowing that you're walking in the footsteps of the Olmec.
That's the beauty of learning about ancient civilizations. It can inspire you to travel, to explore, to see the world with new eyes. The Olmec might be gone, but their story, it's still alive, waiting to be discovered and rediscovered by each new generation.
So there you have it, the Olmec, a civilization of innovators, artists, and mystery makers. They might not have had smartphones, social media, but they left their mark on the world in ways we're still uncovering today. And who knows what other secrets they're hiding, just waiting for us to unearth them.
Keep those eyes peeled and those minds curious, folks. The past is never cruelly past, and the Olmec are proof that even the most ancient civilizations can still surprise us.